This presentation is on opioid dependency in healthcare organizations by Stacy Tete, School of Business, Liberty University, respectfully submitted to Professor Downey. Where does opioid dependency stem from? This is the origin. In the late 1990s, pharmaceutical companies reassured the medical community that patients would not become addicted to prescription opioid pain relievers, and healthcare providers began to prescribe them at greater rates. This subsequently led to widespread diversion and misuse of these medications before it became clear that these medications could indeed be highly addictive. After that, the opioid overdose rates began to increase. Recently, in 2019, nearly 50,000 people just in the United States died from opioid-involved overdoses. The misuse of and addiction to opioids include prescription pain relievers, heroin, and synthetic opioids such as fentanyl. Is a serious national crisis that affects public health as well as social and economic welfare. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, it estimates that the total economic burden of prescription opioid misuse alone in the United States is $78.5 billion a year. This includes the cost of healthcare, lost productivity, addiction treatment, and criminal justice involvement. National Institute on the Drug Abuse 2021. What are some common opioids? And what are opioids and how can they be described? Opioids can be described as drugs that fall into the class description of drug heroin, synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, and pain relievers, legally prescribed pain relievers that are legally prescribed, such as oxycodone. National Institute on Drug Abuse 2021. Common opioids fall under three subheaders: prescription opioids such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, and methadone, as well as synthetic opioid such as fentanyl. Finally, illegal opioid such as heroin. There are several motives for drug usage and dependency. These motives are: 1. Social factors. Some social factors are cultural background and peer pressure. The next are intra-individual factors, which are personality traits and genes. Rem et al. 2020, page 51. Next is stress, both personal and healthcare professional life. Next is anxiety. For all substances, prevalence is higher in men than in women. Rem et al. 2020, page 51. In order to reduce the high number of opioid dependency in healthcare organizations among professionals, there is the need for education and support. There is a need for awareness of the high rate of healthcare professionals, such as nurses, providers, and therapists, who struggle with addiction due to healthcare work environments. In order to provide education and support, there must be an introduction of work-life balance, such as available breaks and counseling sessions, positive work environments, as well as trainings as to handle mental and emotional stress. In order to provide a sales presentation, there are various sales approaches that can be taken. Employer interest in understanding and supporting workplace mental health is increasing worldwide. The prevalence rates globally reveal that common mental health and substance abuse disorders affect at least 1 in 5 workers, with many more affected depending on which problems are considered. Attridge 2019. There are 3 sales approaches, which are stimulus response approach, selling formula, and need satisfaction approach. The stimulus response sales approach. Its effectiveness depends on the strategic use of words and actions, which is a stimulus, of the sales representative to cause the buyer, which is the healthcare organization, to produce a desired response leading to purchase. An example is a canned presentation, where the salesperson has a strong influence on the client's reaction. An example is the salesperson discussing the advantages of opioid addiction treatments on opioid dependency medical personnel, and this advantage is explained thoroughly. Selling formula. This approach assumes before customers agree to buy a product, they go through a series of 4 steps. Bekwitsky, 2017, page 497. The first step is attention. Regardless of external or internal factors, client attention must be obtained through addressing common issues of opioid dependency and its effect upon staff and patients. Interest. Indicating the benefits to the organization, such as the limited occurrence of litigation over malpractices due to opioid influence. Desire. Capitalizing on the short and long-term benefits for the healthcare and its professional staff by approving and undergoing the dependency program. Next is an action, which is the approval of the organization for the purchase of the chemical dependency program. The need satisfaction presentation is the most difficult to master. The entire presentation is often a back and forth conversation between the buyer and the seller. For this reason, the salesperson needs to be able to adapt their style and information they convey to the seller throughout the presentation. This method is the most conversational between the buyer and the seller. It also highly flexible and allows for multiple customization and inputs from the buyer. It is most effective at identifying and prioritizing buyer needs. Just as in the case of reducing the number of dependent care staff on opioids, the need satisfaction approach will be conversational and focus mainly on what the organization needs and its specific requests concerning its employees. Biblical revelation. Scripture emphasizes the importance of providing aid when needed. A scripture that contributes to highlighting this necessity is, "If any of you lacks wisdom, Let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without approach, and it will be given to him. New King James Version, 2004. James chapter 1, verse 5. There will always be needs present in the workplace, in the world, and especially within the healthcare sector. The need for emotional, physical, mental, and even spiritual support is no exception. There is a need for support to be readily available to those who seek assistance. When there's a lack of resources, the tendency of a negative outcome is almost impossible to avoid. This scripture emphasizes on the need for those in higher authority, such as employers, to make available programs, training, and sessions that will be a source of answered prayer to their employees who are at the mercy of substance dependency. Organizations must not deprive workers of such beneficial resources once it is in their power to do so. References: Attridge M. 2019, A Global Perspective on Promoting Workplace Mental Health and the Role of Employee Assistance Program. Bekwitsky, E.N. 2017, Essentials of Healthcare Marketing. New King James Bible, 2004. Opioids, National Institute on Drug Abuse, 2021. Opioid Overdose Crisis, National Institute on Drug Abuse, 2021. Rem J, Probst C, Falcon L, and Shield KD, 2020. Burden of Disease, the Epidemiological Aspect of Addiction. Thank you.